Did Ben and John just successfully pull off a stunt so rare in film that I've only seen it done a handful of times in the past? My name is Kyle. Thank you for jumping into Movie Tactics with me today, where we not only discuss the plot, the story, the character development, the things that make a movie special, but also what makes a movie memorable: the choreography, the action, the stunts, the weapons, the firearms, that wow factor you have when those credits start to roll. And on today's movie review, we are diving into The Accountant 2. The Accountant 2 just came out April 25th, 2025, and it is featuring Ben Affleck, John Bernthal, Daniela Pineda, Grant Harvey, Michael Torek, and J.K. Simmons, which is fun to see. The movie is rated R. It's a little over 2 hours long, directed by Gavin O'Connor. The reviews are actually almost the exact same as the first movie that came out back in 2016. So there's been quite a gap from the first one into the second one, the sequel. But that movie that came out in 2016 had a budget of $44 million and only brought about $155 million back from the box office worldwide. Now, of course, movie budget and how much it made don't really matter that much, because what really matters is it a good movie? And obviously, we've seen in many movies in the past, throwing money at a movie doesn't necessarily mean, in fact, almost never means that the movie is going to be amazing.
They're not using speeders.
The summary of this movie: a forensic accountant named Christian Wolf, and he teams up with his estranged but highly lethal brother to track down mysterious assassins. Now, this movie actually has more of a cult following than you might think. The Accountant, when it did come out in theaters back in 2016, didn't seem to really just catch on that much. It was just kind of a generic thriller type of movie where you have an assassin, he's running through the motions, but it's very interesting because he's much more forensic in how he uses math and understanding a situation, and he's just that much of a smarter type of an assassin where he's very meticulous. He lives out of an Airstream trailer, and he has everything down to exactly how he wants it, very much a loner, but he has this estranged brother who is John Bernthal. But that being said, the movie, at least the first one, really got some legs when it hit streaming, it seems. It hit several different types of streaming platforms, and it seemed to become more and more popular, so much so that it seems like 9 years later, they decided to make another one. Now, this is a no spoiler review, so no worries there if you haven't seen it. It's going to be streaming soon. It doesn't seem to really pick up too much in popularity in the theater, but it's kind of been the case for a lot of movies released recently in the last year or so. But this movie seems to have taken an edge over the first one. Now, the plot of this sequel is really based around a Treasury agent named Mary Beth Medina, played by Cynthia Ade Robinson, and she is forced to contact Christian Wolf, played by Ben, to solve a murder. And then a bunch of mayhem ensues. A lot of people get killed in various ways. And they actually have a lot of funny quips back and forth. And just the mentality of it, where you have this go get 'em kind of spitfire type of brother played by John. And you have this meticulous accountant, mathematician, special forensic type of assassin played by Ben. They just kind of clash the whole time, but you can kind of see a little bit of love here and there, but they haven't really talked to each other in a long time. They talk about that in the first movie too. So in the second one, kind of bringing that next level of their relationship together, they have their time hanging out. They get to kind of get to know each other, which they hadn't really done ever, it seems. Now, this murder involves some kids who are kidnapped and thrown into essentially a prison camp, where now Ben and John have to go and hunt down and solve this mystery with the help of their Treasury agent there. There's the federal side, and then there's the assassin side, and like they go back and forth on, well, the agent's like, I can't be here with you. Like, you can't just keep killing people and beating people up to get answers. It's not right. We got a legal system. And they just kind of have that kind of going back and forth throughout the whole movie. And it's just kind of interesting because it kind of has some little bit of action, a little bit of comedy through every scene. Because a lot of times in movies, even action movies recently, I find myself, there's a dip. There's like a 30-minute dip at some point where you're like just kind of either dozing off, you want to go get a refill on your popcorn, go to the bathroom. They just keep talking and talking, but it's not really anything but kind of describing something in the story that isn't really that relevant, or something where there's no kind of comedy thrown in there. It's too dry, if you can imagine that. And with this movie, I didn't find that dryness, that dullness in there. I thought that it was kind of paced very well, even being a little over 2 hours long. Let's break down some of the action sequences here in the movie. And again, not any spoilers here, but you can imagine there's a lot of firearms being used, vehicles, various weapons, hand-to-hand combat, some choreography in there that's a little more intricate because it is an assassin movie. Now, what's really interesting is the fact that both of these guys, Ben and John, have had their respectable action movie careers behind them already and more to come. Now, John, though, has trained heavily with Taran Tactical, right? So John Wick, right? You can kind of see Keanu Reeves kind of running and gunning that way. So John Bernthal brings a little bit of something special to this movie. Now, Ben has some training too, but you can really see that John has really honed in on the training using a firearm, because there are some sequences in this movie where not only you have use of rifles like ARs, M4s, you have handguns, you have scoped rifles, bolt actions, where you need to understand the mechanics of them, how to reload, how to look the part, but also be efficient and don't fumble and make mistakes. So he has some tactical training for sure, and that is definitely coming through in his character. Funny enough, there's actually a product placement in this movie, which I guess I'm not too surprised at. Like I mentioned, John has trained with Taran Tactical in the past. John Wick franchise, they've done the same tactic that this movie is kind of using here a little bit, but John is out of the US in another country, right? On a job. Well, typical, he gets his handgun of choice sent to his hotel. And you might catch glimpses of this in the trailer, so it's not too much of a spoiler, but he pulls out a Taran Tactical Sand Viper, which is a 2011 9mm type of competition, super fast, very pricey handgun, and he uses that very well. But they have a nice close-up image in the movie of him opening the box and like pulling it out and like then practicing with it. And there's actually a really funny hotel scene of him. He's like half naked, just talking to himself in the mirror and stuff, and has nothing to do with the movie. You find out, you're like, oh, okay, this is just him talking about his life. But it's a pretty good little scene there with him talking about that after you see that Sand Viper. But it was interesting how they zoomed in on this thing, and it's kind of a little bit of product placement, which is the same thing that happened in the last couple of John Wick movies. A lot of the characters are rocking Glock 17s throughout the movie, which checks out. A lot of the bad guys are using like M16, A2s. I think I saw a dissipator in there as well, which is something with an AR with a 16-inch barrel with a full-length gas tube, so it has the sight way out and a very long handguard. So there's some interesting takes here, and of course, like AKMs, AK-74s, AK-47s. I saw a couple of those, most likely AK-47s and AKMs. You know, being the bad guy kind of go-to gun. There's some knife work in here as well. A lot of the choreography was very well done. These guys definitely know what they're doing, had a great stunt team going for them. There, of course, are also bad assassins in the movie. And one of the interesting guns that I had never seen before in any movie was a B&T SPR 300 Pro, and I only could tell that's what it was because I saw it on the side of the chassis of the rifle, because as an assassin he uses it, takes it apart, has it suppressed, but it's a bolt action from B&T, most likely chambered in 300 blackout, so it wasn't designed for super long range, but they used it in a way within a few hundred yards or something like that. It wasn't like super long distance. And then he also used it in close-up action scenes as well as one of the bad main characters. So that was kind of fun to see. You don't really see bolt actions being run like that, but there are a lot of bolt actions with like 10-inch barrels like that, and 300 blackout is a very popular cartridge and very quiet with the suppressor. There's a great scene in this movie where someone gets shot in the chest and then requests a chest seal. Now, they should probably go directly to the hospital after, but, you know, it's a movie. They're not going to do that. But it is great to see that they have a chest seal on hand in their IFAK, in their kit, that allows them to treat a wound like that. Because usually you see tourniquets and bandages and things like that in movies, but it's nice to see, like, give me a chest seal. Just a little added detail that I liked. But overall, the tactical movements, the flow of all of the action sequences, some of the crazy kitchen scenes and things like that, whether, you know, using pots and pans and knives to get really brutal, really up close, were all very well done. I think everyone did a great job. The performances and direction of this movie, especially characters like J.K. Simmons, like that guy can fight, and for his age, he is still ripped and just a fantastic actor. Everything he does seems to be just perfection. But of course, Ben being the main character here, playing Christian Wolf, I have to say he does such a great job elevating that type of character. You know, look at Good Will Hunting, right? With that type of movie, that's kind of what I'm getting for this type of movie, for the vibe. He just kind of lives in the mindset of that character, and I really just enjoyed watching him on screen. I thought that he did a fantastic job, and he just kept character the whole time. You know, the little tiny smirks here and there instead of like full on smiles and all that. Those little things, those little details that you notice throughout a movie as he kind of makes jokes or tries to make a joke and kind of gets more of a relationship with his brother there. And his brother, John, just brings an energy to a movie no matter what movie it is. I love watching him. I remember seeing him back as Shane with The Walking Dead, where I'm sure a lot of you guys met him first as well. And it just brings some sort of a vibe where he is just funny and just high energy and explosive. It just really is a joy to watch him in pretty much anything he's in. But Cynthia, playing Mary Beth, the treasury agent there, she gets in some serious action scenes and she does a fantastic job. I had never seen her in pretty much anything, I don't think, unless it was something small, supportive role or anything. And this is kind of a supportive role here, but she plays a lot of the sequences and especially some action scenes and things like that that she must have trained really well on, because I thought they were fantastic and very well done. Going back to what this movie might have done that is very rare in cinema nowadays, and it really is. I mean, if you look at any movies that are coming out now, there seems to be some kind of fatigue where, oh, I've seen that before, I don't really need to see it again. This movie brings a different level of energy than the first one did, where the first one kind of sets everything up. You get the assassin tone of Christian Wolf there, and with that kind of brings more humor and also some elevated action in this movie. In fact, the very first scene is just straight up action. The shots, the angles they use for the shots, the color in this movie, it just has a certain tone to it where you just kind of are captivated. You're watching it, you're really enjoying it. And I'm hoping this movie takes off just like it did from the first one on streaming. So did The Accountant 2 surpass Accountant 1? I would say so. And that's the rare part. It really is to see a sequel that is shot better, done better than the first one. And it's really is an enjoyable movie to watch. I'm going to give this movie very similar to what the critics and all the audience is giving it. I'm going to give it 7 out of 10 cheesy Gordita crunches.
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
What were your thoughts on The Accountant 2? If you've seen it, let me know down in the comments below. Did it surpass the first one? Is my review accurate on that? If so, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. This is a brand new channel. New reviews on movies every single week, every Friday, and we'll see you guys in the next review.